This is Robin Flans with Robin Flans Drummer Interviews, and this interview is sponsored by ePad Practice Pads, the only practice pad with Enduraflex playing surface, and RobinFlansMedia.com, where you can get yourself a brand new bio. And today, we have a really cool thing going on. So we have John Bermuda Schwartz in the studio with us. Yeah! And the deal is, well, let me give you a little backstory. John was on my social media, and he said to me on my social media, has anybody done an interview with you? And I sort of called his bluff. I said, well, do you want to do that? And he called my bluff and said, well, yeah. So I said, well, let's do this. I'll interview you. You interview me. I'll show you mine, and you'll show me mine. Never mind. I got that all wrong. So he's here. He came to this studio, our little humble digs, and we're going to do that. And John has played with Weird Al Yankovic forever. We're going to talk about that first. And then we're going to get to the other part of him talking to me, God help us, later. But John, I just want to get down to it. First of all, how the heck did you get the Bermuda Schwartz name?
Well, early on, right after I met Al, and became, obviously I was his drummer, he thought, he had Weird Al was in quotes, he thought I needed a funny name also that we could put in quotes. So I became Bermuda Schwartz, or John Bermuda Schwartz, with Bermuda in quotes.
Does everybody in the band have a funny name?
No, by the time this band, it wasn't much longer after that, but Al had already gotten over the nickname thing, and by the time they came in, they didn't get any nicknames. So now the guitar player took on his own later. Jim West became Jim Chemo West. Chemo is Hawaiian for Jim, and he's a very well-respected slack key player. So he took on his own nickname. But apart from that, and I'd already changed my driver's license and credit cards. I was already Bermuda, so it was too late.
No.
Oh yeah, I'm Bermuda Schwartz.
No.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Yep.
So it's a legal name.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hysterical. Do you wear Bermuda shorts?
No, I haven't got the legs for it. But,
So, okay. So the story goes that you met the weirdo on the Dr. Demento show. So like 35 some odd years? 37 years ago. Now, for some of the listeners, they may not even know what Dr. Demento is. Now, I do, because, of course, I'm, well, that old. Sorry. Oh, gosh. I'm showing my age. Tell us about that first meeting.
Well, I had always been, as a kid, I was a fan of the Dr. Demento show. He was on a station here in town, originally KPPC and then KMET, which was the rock station. He was on Sunday evenings. He had a 2-hour show, then a 4-hour show, then a 2-hour show.
And what was Dr. Demento?
Dr. Demento, he's basically a musicologist. I mean, he's this like expert on everything musical. But he played a lot of novel stuff, and not just funny songs, but a lot of obscure jazz songs and things like that, a lot of rarities and stuff. And eventually, people started sending in homemade music, comedy music, and the show became more catered a bit more to that. I was one of the people that started sending in stuff in the early 70s. And my stuff got played on the radio.
Really? What was your stuff like?
Well, it was they weren't really comedy songs, and they weren't originals. I mean, they were. I had originally entered a contest, which was to do a recording of a song that was very popular on a show called Pico and Sepulveda. So some friends and I got together and recorded a version of that. You know, back in those days, back in the early 70s, in school band, you had horn players and stuff like that. We didn't know guitar players or any of that business. So we had a guy named Barry Keys played trombone well-known trombone player. Guy named Jeff Rona on flute, well-known composer now. Guy named Richard Elliott on sax.
Oh my!
Had very interesting friends,
Okay.
and some other chums in there, and we were all schoolmates.
Okay.
And we sent that in, and we came in, and it was a contest. We came in second.
Wow.
And the doctor used our version for his theme for a while because we did an instrumental, so he could talk over it in the beginning of the show. So that was the first thing we thought. How cool! We got our stuff played on Demento. That was that was really, really neat. So we soon after we recorded another song, sent that to him, the Ballad of Woodsy Owl. And he played that. And then, about a year later, we recorded Mr. Ghost Goes to Town. And he played that, and he still plays it on Halloween.
So when he played it, I mean, did you have to go down there? I mean, did you ever get to go down there and be a guest on the show? Or what was that about?
Not initially, but it did lead to that.
Okay.
Later on, I was introduced to him. I'd never met him before, never even talked to him. Was introduced, and he asked if I wanted to come down and do an interview.
Okay.
At this point, now this is 1980, and at this point, the show was really catering towards a lot of homemade music. So he thought it would be interesting to have someone who was early on in that process come down and just talk and talk about the bands I was in and stuff like that. So I came down. The date was September 14th, 1980. Weird Al was already a fixture on the show.
Okay.
And he was there that night.
Fateful night, guys.
Yeah, right place, right time.
Right place, right time.
And it's interesting because he had also, the first thing he ever sent to Dr. Demento was this Pico and Sepulveda.
No!
So sort of separate
What
brothers.
What a kismet kind of thing.
Now he did not place in very high up, but
what a weird connection
so
that is.
we both sort of jumped in at the same time. Now I didn't have any aspirations about writing music or but that's just sort of a weird coincidence. So he was there this night, and he was doing a song he had just written that weekend. Another one, Rides the Bus, a parody of Queen's Another One Bites the Dust.
Right.
And he asked if I would beat on his accordion case, which I did. I had no dignity. I don't know. And after that, I said, you should have a band. I'll be your drummer.
Well, that was bold.
And that was, and he didn't know, so he said, okay.
He didn't know.
He didn't know what that entailed. And I didn't know what I was getting into. There was no reason to think there was anything beyond just being crazy now and then, or meeting on the Demento show now and then, and it obviously the ball got rolling.
Wow.
So that's how that meeting happened, and that's how I became his drummer.
Wow. What did you think about him then? Did you think he had longevity possibilities? What did you think?
I didn't. I hadn't really assessed that. But if you'd asked me then, do you think you'll still be having fun or doing wacky stuff in 5 years? I probably would have said no. And we just never know. Every once in a while, it's like it's amazing we got this far. I mean, we just every few years, I think we all look at it and go, God, it doesn't end. It just keeps. We've been very privileged in that way. And ultimately, album after album, and we ultimately ended up with a #1 album, which a lot of legit bands don't get.
What year was that?
That was 2014. And
long.
So after 30 plus years of releasing albums, in fact, our prior couple of albums were also top 10 albums. They were our highest charting albums. So the further into Al's career, we got, the better the stuff did.
That's funny. That's
the opposite of
how it usually works.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Usually an artist's peak is at the beginning.
And they can either maintain it very well or it drops off from there.
That's interesting.
And or you build up to something and then you come back down.
Yeah.
And we've spent 14 albums building up to a #1.
That's amazing.
And then Al quits the record label.
Wow.
#1, goodbye.
Interesting.
Well, it was the end of that particular contract,
Right.
and with the record business being what it is, he just didn't see a point in maintaining a contract and maintaining that relationship in terms of putting out albums that really weren't going to sell.
Right.
And with his reach on YouTube, he's able to promote himself. And,
but the box is coming out on that label, I'm assuming.
Yes, Sony is putting this, and with our cooperation, of course. I curated basically everything that's in this booklet. Curated about 99% of the photos, and worked closely with the folks at Sony, and sent pictures of Al's accordion so they could design this box.
Wow. Okay.
And it's a very cool package. There's a CD version and an LP version.
Nice.
And everything's been remastered, and things have been, mastered for vinyl that didn't appear on vinyl at all.
Wow.
92 was our first album that was CD only. So there were several albums that came out that were not on vinyl. Those are all appearing on vinyl now. And everything sounds really good. There were some digital artifacts that were on the CDs that they've gone through and corrected. They did a really nice job on this. The package is really nice. This book is it's heavy and feels good, and it's coated pages, and it's really, I mean, they sent me some a couple of weeks ago, and I got it, and it's like, man, they didn't spare any expense on this.
Nice.
It's really nice.
And it's coming out when?
This is out November 24th.
Yeah,
people that pre-ordered, it was announced back in January. People that pre-ordered are actually starting to receive them now.
Nice.
They're receiving them a little bit in advance, and they've almost completely sold out. There's a Pledge Music website, and that's in conjunction with the record labels, and they offered several different packages. There's this level of package, and you get a poster and a key ring or whatever, and or you can buy just the basic box set, and so people that pre-ordered, it's a ton of pre-orders. There's about 300 or 400 sets left total, and there won't be any more.
No.
So that's it.
Oh
so
my
it's
gosh.
It's a very finite market on that. But this is, it's the hardcore fans that really are buying this. And apart from it being a nice collection and sounding better and being in a box and having this book that you can't get anywhere else, there's a 15th album that comes with it, and it's a bunch of rarities.
Whoa.
And a lot of the fans have heard some of these things, and some they haven't heard at all. I mean, they're literally hearing them for the first time now. And that's kind of, not that you would spend several $100s to get this one disc.
Right.
But that's just, that's a little bit more of an incentive. And but it's all of Al's studio albums. There's 14 studio albums. This 15th, it's called Medium Rarities. And that's the kicker. And then it's in an accordion box with bellows, and literally it's an accordion file that the LPs and CDs go into. So it's a very nice package.
That's great.
And just in time for Christmas, although they're already, most of them are
who
pre-sold.
can get it?
So
my gosh.
You can't.
You can't get it, guys.
Never mind. Forget I mentioned it. They're gone.
Oh my gosh.
Check eBay. Check eBay for those. No, it's a pretty cool package. So that's a big thing. And I started working with Sony on this. A couple of guys came out from New York about 2.5 years ago, right before we went on tour in 2015.
So why you?
And went through all my stuff.
The Yiddish word, macher. You're the big cheese. You're the big deal.
I'm the archivist. I hoarded all the stuff.
Uh-huh.
And they all come to me. MTV, VH1, Biography Channel.
Really?
Everyone, if they're doing a book, if there's an article, the Washington Post did a major article.
Wow.
I sent them a ton of stuff because I have all of that. Everything's been scanned and digitized.
Okay.
I have all the dates. I have all the personnel. I have.
We're sitting here with the big cheese. I didn't even know that. Look at you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I'm impressed.
How good of you to say that.
Yes, you are.
The cheese.
Well,
it's a joke.
Like I said, in Yiddish, it's the macher. But I don't know how many people out there know that, but that's a big word. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
Wow.
So yeah, I just, and I don't know why. I mean, I sort of did it with the other bands I was in. Just collected stuff, took photos. If we played a gig, I kept the flyers. I kept a ticket.
That's very nice.
And I did that very diligently with Al right from day one. In fact, I still have, and it's untouched, the card, the authorization card to go to KMET to go to the Dr. Demento show that night. I still have that card, September 14th, signed by Dr. Demento himself.
So cool.
And that's like the #1 item in the collection. Wow. Of course. But I took photos. I kept flyers. I've got audio. I've got all the outtakes from the studios.
Very cool.
So cool. We'd be recording stuff, and I'd have a cassette running of the whole thing. So there's stuff that I have that doesn't exist anywhere else.
Oh, very cool.
Because the label was cheap. You know, we do a take and it didn't work out, we'd go over it, right? So that take was gone forever, except I've got one.
I love it.
So I could probably release a fairly bad-sounding alternate album for almost everything we've done.
An alternate box.
Ooh.
Whoa.
In a drum.
John.
In a drum.
John. Ooh. Ideas are coming to happen right here in our little studio.
Don't tell Sony.
Shh. Okay. They won't hear this.
Just kidding.
Okay.
Just kidding, Mike. Just kidding, John.
So, okay. So what goes in to playing a Weird Al show?
It's a show. Mm-hmm. That's first.
Right.
It's a Broadway show.
Yeah.
Until now. But let's talk about prior to 2018.
Okay.
There's video, there's costumes. It's the same set every night. It's like seeing a show.
Tell me all of it.
There's one thing
Break
that
it down.
changes. One thing changes every night. Where at some point where we get a break between the videos and the pacing, Al will say, "Hello," and then the city. And that's the one thing that's different. You go to see, a movie and you don't expect it to change. You go to see Hamilton, or Wicked or whatever,
right.
and you don't expect it to change,
right,
really.
right,
I mean, unless they make a mistake.
Right.
And sometimes Al will sing different, funnier, stupider lyrics to a song.
Really? He'll change the lyrics?
Well,
in a song?
he'll forget.
Oh, good.
But he'll say something. He doesn't just stop. He just other words come out.
Right.
And sometimes it's interesting. And if we call him on it, he'll say, "Well, it's my song. I can do what I want." It's like,
okay.
Okay. God forbid I should hit the wrong snare beat.
Yeah, right. My drum part.
No. My song, you play my drum part.
Yeah, right.
And the song, right. So, okay. There's it's well rehearsed.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to sing, and I'm far from a singer. So
you sing?
No, I open my mouth and stuff comes out.
Okay. Why didn't I see that on the?
Because we don't tell very many people.
Okay.
No, I don't really. I'm far from a singer.
Okay.
But we all contribute, and again, there's costumes, there's choreography, there's videos running.
What are you wearing?
Well, I may wear a nice snug coat, which is great for playing drums.
Aye.
I wear a nun's habit, a coronet at during one of the songs, and some police tape, do not cross, on a T-shirt. And there's some stupid stuff as well. What else? A beard. We have beards, wigs. We have, because we just now. In the meantime, then there's also video running behind most of our songs.
Right.
So for the most part, I'm also locked into a track. We've got a server that runs.
Right, I noticed.
Essentially
yes.
runs
you got
the show.
The headphones on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm tied into that.
Yep.
And I don't know what the other guys are doing. Hopefully they're playing to me. I'm
Right.
told we're very tight.
Right.
So
yes.
I guess they're listening to me.
Yes.
But I'm listening to the track.
Right.
And I sort of.
So you can't.
I hold it all together.
You can't.
There are no. I can't have distractions.
Right.
I can't. If Al gets excited and starts singing, starts pulling, I can't go with him.
Right.
I mean, I've got one job,
and that's lock in.
That's to stay with the
right.
video.
You got to lock in.
Now, we're throwing that all out. On this next tour, we're doing what other bands do. We're just playing. We're playing. We're singing.
No headphones. No.
Well,
no tracks?
I'll have in-ears so I can hear myself.
But no tracks.
No tracks. No video. No costumes.
Whoa.
No breaks. No nothing.
That's going to be unique.
Yeah, that's like this is what bands do. I'm told, and a different set every night.
Oh.
We're pulling out a lot of our originals. We're learning and relearning about 50 or 55 of our originals. Wow. And this is for the hardcore fans. This is for the fans who over the years have said, you should play more of your originals live.
Yeah.
We really like the originals sometimes better than the parodies. We want to hear those. This year is for them.
So what are the originals?
Well, they're all humorous, hopefully.
Okay.
Most of them, about 90% of them, I would say, are in the styles of some of Al's favorite bands. They're known as style parodies. So we may do something and we'll sound very much like B-52s or Devo or Ben Folds or Frank Zappa or, there's several on each album. And it's those songs. Now, the hardcore fans know all of them. So no one's,
I'm
and
sure.
Al's made very sure, and William Morris books Al, and they've made very sure to promote this as not this show, which is a pretty good show.
Okay.
It's really a good show. That this is a different thing. That this is, and they've really, they're not trying to undersell it, but they're really making sure no frills, ill-advised, no refunds, go home.
Yeah, they want to let people know what they're going to get.
Yeah,
sure.
So this,
Got it.
obscure songs, deep cuts, and there'll be a couple of parodies at the end that we sort of have to represent.
Right.
But it's going to be largely originals and different set every night, like a lot of bands do.
Wow, that's cool.
And it's a lot of prep. We're actually rehearsing, instead of rehearsing 3 or 4 days like we do for a normal tour, we're actually rehearsing like 10 days.
Okay.
Which is a lot for us.
Yeah, sure.
Some bands rehearse for months.
Sure. Yeah.
And they know their stuff, and we're
right.
revisiting things we haven't played. Well, some of the stuff we've never played.
Right.
And so we get 10 days to get it all together, which we'll do. We're fine.
Right.
We've done this stuff at some point, and that's going to be the 2018 tour.
Okay.
It is extremely likely that the show will return in future.
Yeah, at some point, sure, of course. People will demand it.
Well,
of
yeah,
course.
and that's really, and it's a good show. I mean, we released a live video of the 2011, 2012 tour,
right.
and I watched the video, and it's like, this is, seeing it from a perspective that I never could, and hearing a proper mix and all that with cuts and all of this stuff, and you can see the video in the back, and I'm watching it and say, this is pretty good. I understand why people come see this.
How do you keep? I mean, I know because you do it over and over, and so it becomes, you know what to expect. But I mean, how do you keep a straight face?
I honestly, I'm focused. I'm in a zone, and I'm focused on. I can't let my mind.
But good Lord, I mean.
Well, initially when I hear a lot of the stuff, I think it's very funny or it's clever or whatever it is,
But even like watching that, I'm a surgeon, and that person there with the things and the.
Oh.
And I mean, I'm just sitting there going, how does he play behind that?
Well, that's Ruben. That's Ruben Valtierra on keyboards and on cone bra.
Yeah, okay, I didn't even know what to call that.
Now,
yeah, that's good.
To say he's a ham is really not enough. I don't think.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to like not look at that. I'm sure while you play because.
Well, I can't look away. It's just, and I do, and the problem is. He escalated the bit over the years.
Oh, I'm sure, because he gets a reaction out in the
audience. He eventually got his own riser.
Oh God!
And a spotlight.
Oh God!
He and Al are up front, and Ruben's he brings out a drill and he's spinning, his cap. He's striking all these poses and just really hamming it up. So you know what? But that was really a question of how far is he going to go tonight? One night he came out in Speedos.
Oh no!
Now there are portions of the song during which I didn't play. There's a sequence and then I come in on the choruses. So I've got the whole verse to watch him. Well, like I said, I always had a camera with me, even on stage.
Oh wow!
So there are photos.
Oh no!
Of him in his, and of course he's not facing me, so they're from the back, and I got them developed as quickly as I could back in the film days, and he was sufficiently mortified, which is a good thing.
He never did it again?
No, he never did that again. Once he realized, and this is before the internet, really. I mean, this was like back in the day where it's like, oh well, Bermuda's got a photo and a negative, and nobody will ever see. Well, it did actually end up on the web. Thanks to me. Anyway, so yeah, I just it was more I watched him just to see what he would do next, and it just now eventually we stopped doing that version of the song. That actually was the Madonna's Truth or Dare version, and it was a very different arrangement. It was kind of a Middle Eastern sounding thing,
right,
which was a lot of fun.
Right,
we enjoyed doing that, but that was Ruben's deal. He didn't originally do the cone bra. The two guys up front, Jim and Steve, because they were in line with Al.
Right.
Originally had those, and Ruben and I are in the back, and just dressed normally for that song. So we were playing L.A., and Jim, the guitar player, said, "You know what? I've got friends out there. I really don't want to do this cone bra." And Steve is like, "Well, if he's not doing it, I'm not doing it."
No.
And Ruben is like, "Me."
Oh no!
Or maybe Al, forced him to do it. Anyway,
so
Ruben put it on and went out front, and immediately he became the guy. And like I say, it got crazier from there.
Oh my gosh!
So Ruben Valtierra,
the exhibitionist in him came out.
Yeah,
That's
and we
hysterical.
referred to him as Senor Conebra. So Conebra.
I love it.
Because he's of Hispanic descent. Anyway.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's hysterical. I just kept thinking, how does John stay in his zone? I just don't know.
I've learned that if I don't, I will get off the track. So
off the tracks,
literally off the track. So I have to stay focused, and there are songs, and I have a different mix for every song, and a lot of times I'm not hearing some of the players. It's like I don't need to know what they're doing.
Right.
I need to hear Al's vocal in case something goes wrong, and
Sure.
he calls the song,
Right.
which never actually happens, but just in case.
Right.
But he can't be too loud because if he is, because he's doing choreography and he pulls us, and I can't go with him.
Right.
I got something else. I got the screen and the audio and this thing blaring in my head. So I've learned to just focus. I can't daydream. I can't think about
Right.
having Indian food the next day. I mean, I just, that's for other times. For 2 hours a night, I'm in that zone, and that's what I do, and I'm just locked in. And if I'm not, then I make mistakes.
What in your training prepared you for all of this?
Nothing. I learned it as I went. We all sort of learned it as we went. I mean, I'd never, early on, never really worked with tracks before. I'd never programmed machines or any of that. By our third album, by Dare to Be Stupid in 1985, I realized if I'm going to participate as the drummer in every facet that drumming includes, I got to go get a drum machine. And I got a Yamaha drum machine, and it's funny. Machines have certain feels. It was always a very sluggish, weird, plottish feel on that machine. It wasn't a great machine, but it was my first, and it got us through some songs. I went through a few other machines, graduated to samplers, and then eventually to just computer
Right.
samples and doing stuff in MIDI. And now I actually, when I lay all that stuff out, and I do, and it's become not just sequencing and programming, but it's become sound design, because we have to copy sounds
Right.
as well,
Right.
and which is not as easy as it sounds.
Right.
It's not. I do have an approach though that got me through it. It's been very frustrating for a while. I always did it, I think, pretty well, but once I realized, I'm never going to figure out what they did. What I have to do is figure out how I can do something
Right.
to make that sound.
Right.
I'm never going to
Right.
know what they did.
Right.
So stop beating myself up.
Sure.
What can I do to make that sound? And then it got a bit easier.
Right.
And I would make snares became 3 or 4 different sounds.
Right.
Maybe there was a snare, maybe there was a hand clap on top of it. Maybe there was a rim click on top of that. I mean, there's all these different things, and once they end up in the mix, it's like, yeah, that sounds like, this did on the Lady Gaga song, or
Right.
on Blurred Lines, stuff like that. And now I just lay stuff out. I literally lay it out in Acid, which is like GarageBand, and I just lay it out sample by sample, and it comes out looking actually like it does in Pro Tools.
Interesting.
So I sort of work in that environment.
Right.
I don't do the MIDI thing anymore.
Right.
And that works well for me. I can see it. I can create those tracks, those stems, and just I can literally email them to the studio. I don't even need to go in anymore. We go in because Al
Amazing.
usually has
Yeah.
pizza there, but we don't actually,
Right.
and we all work on our parts separately,
Right.
on those
Right.
things that are programmed.
Right.
So the bass player will program something, the Jim will program something, Ruben will program something, Al may program something, and of course we know, okay, we're going to do, it's this tempo, it's 2 bars at the top for a count off,
Right.
there's a change here, there's
Right.
this edit, whatever it is, this is the ending.
You're given the parameters.
Right.
Right.
And so when they all get assembled for the first time, I don't think we've ever had an issue where it didn't work out. In fact, that's the only reason I go into the studio, is to actually hear it all together.
Right.
And if there's something I need to
Tweak.
comment or
Right.
work on my own, I
Right.
can do it. But that's really the only reason on those things to go into the studio anymore. On most of the originals, we're playing live. And obviously we, as a band, we go in and we've already demoed the song and perhaps
Right.
even rehearsed it beyond
Right.
that. But on, for example, on our last album, all 6 originals were all played live,
Right.
and all 5 parodies were all sequenced.
Interesting.
And then the 12th song is a polka medley. And that's which is a medley of hit songs strung together to a polka beat. And it's a real fan favorite. And what Al does also is he'll take the original videos for those songs and he'll time stretch it to our new tempo, and he'll put together a video based on our song, and then that runs while we're playing in concert. So that's and that's only available there. Although I think on this last album, I think it's wound up on YouTube.
Wow.
Or something like that. This last one was called Now That's What I Call Polka.
Wow.
And not for 2018 though. Not being an original song. That's not.
Right.
So again, all of this show stuff, we're taking a year off from that.
Right.
And just doing the originals for the hardcore fans.
Right.
And we're playing smaller venues as a rule, although they've almost all sold out, which has been great. We've added some shows. Yeah. Wow. 4 months, 5 months in advance. Wow. Or more. And that's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
It's like, oh, maybe we could have gone a little. So whereas in 2015 we played the Greek Theater, in 2016 we did 2 nights at the Hollywood Bowl. In 2018 we're doing 2 nights at the Ace Theater in downtown LA.
Mm-hmm.
The theater at the Ace Hotel.
Right.
And which is about a 1,500 seat hall.
Okay.
Which is that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not like playing a 19,000 seat place, but
Okay.
I make the same, so that's fine.
It's cool. It's so cool. I mean, what a ride.
It's not over. It keeps getting
clearly not.
Keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I can't explain it except that Al is very, very good at what he does.
Yeah.
He's got a very loyal fan base,
yeah.
and that fan base regenerates itself because we've always got, with every new album, we've got younger fans. I mean, kids under 10, but teens and early 20s, latch on to the Al thing, and they're our future. But we've still got our fans from 35 years ago. So we got 5 and 6 year olds in the audience, and we got 50 and 60-year-olds in the audience.
I love it.
And people, and the older folks are bringing their kids.
Yeah.
And there's people that have met at Al shows and gotten married, as a result of meeting through us.
Right.
I mean, it's really cool. I mean, it's very. And there's another thing about the Al thing is this has been the same band for all of these years, on all of the albums, on all of the tours.
Really?
It's the same band for 35 plus years.
So are you all tight?
Well, I mean, we're a family.
Yeah.
Sure. And there's not many groups out there. There's not many groups out there that have been together that long, that have the same members, that are putting out hit albums.
Yeah.
At this point in their career. I mean, there's Aerosmith. I mean, I already know. It's Aerosmith, U2, Rush, sort of, if you don't count, the original drummer and the fact that they're breaking up. ZZ Top. 4. There's one more. I can't think who it is. It's a very small club. And then Al has got the same band. Wow. And three top 10 albums in a row, including a number 1.
And that records together. That's amazing.
And we're the guys on the records.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it's again, not many people. So and over the years, that's brought us a respect that maybe we didn't have in the beginning.
Right.
Either as the band or Al. Oh, Al's this, one hit wonder. Oh, okay, now he's a 2-hit wonder. Oh, he's a 6-hit wonder, but it's not going to last for okay, well, he's got a number 1 album. You what? So it's
and a box set.
And now a box set.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, and there have been several.
Right.
I mean, the first label, which was bought by Sony eventually, but the very first label was Scotti Brothers, and they were very big into promotion. So much so that we had 8 albums out under them, and there was an equal number of greatest hits discs. There were 4 greatest hits releases, and then a box set with 4 other discs in it. It was 1-to-1, reissues versus original studio albums. Now we sold millions and millions of albums.
It's a phenomenon. It's something clearly unexplained. And
we're lucky and privileged, and not to say that he hasn't earned it.
Right. No, I know, but
you still got to be good at what you do.
It's just something unique.
It is unique.
Yeah.
Al is the only person doing what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the Alan Sherman of the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and teens. The Spike Jones, the Stan Freberg, the Tom Lehrer, the Smothers brother.
Yes.
Brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's the guy, and has carried it on for a very long time, and will still. I don't know if there's an end in sight. I think when people stop coming to see us, is when he'll get it. and it's like, okay, it's over, but it's not. That's not happening.
Yeah, no.
It's like, well, we'll play smaller venues and we'll see how they do. And it's like they're selling out. It's like, it's just what they won't let us live.
It's wonderful,
and it's great.
It's wonderful.
It's cool. It's cool to have, and I don't want to say there's job security, but over the years, looking back, it's like it's been great. I mean, this is my day gig and allows me to do a lot of other cool things.
Which are?
Well, I mean, to play in other bands here in town. I mean, I keep busy between tours. You don't see Alex Van Halen playing in a top 40 band. And
so what do you do between tours?
Other than playing in, nothing.
I mean, what other bands? I mean, what music do you enjoy? What else do you like playing?
I'm in some cover bands and I'm in some original bands. There's one other artist I've been working with since 1981. So this goes a long relationship too. A guy named Rip Masters, and Rip has a lot of original stuff, country, rockabilly, Americana.
Okay, so that's fun.
And I still work with him. I've recorded several albums with him. It's very cool that when I'm not around to record something or do certain gigs, he brings in DJ from X to essentially sub for me. So that's like
interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
DJ's a very schooled drummer and a melodic. He's way beyond what I do.
Very cool.
And that's very cool that he comes in to do that. And also cool that when I come back from a tour, I get to step right back in.
Nice.
And that's been the case with all of my bands. I don't think I've ever been in a band where I've come and gone a bunch of times and they, eventually wised up and said, you know what, we need a permanent drummer. It's like they always like having me come back. And there was one band that I asked about that, and I'd recommended some drummers to them, drummers who can play, obviously. And they said, well, none of them worked out. And, I said, this guy didn't work out. He says, well, no.
It's not you.
Well, no, you know what? That's exactly what they said. And I said, but could he not keep time? Well, no, he said, did he not play the right parts? He didn't overplay. No. Is he not a nice guy? No, he's a nice guy. And I said, well, what? And literally he said, he's not you. He's not you.
Yeah, well, I get it.
And that's very flattering. And it's a little scary that for some reason these guys can't find another drummer.
Yeah.
But I'm also very flattered, and I'm still in all of these bands.
Nice.
I think apart from Al, I'm actually like in 4 bands.
That's nice.
Which sometimes it's a little more, and I sub with some others. But I'm a regular in 4 bands, and happily, it's very rare that there's a schedule conflict.
And where can people find out where you're playing?
Usually I have something on my Facebook page.
Okay.
Which is, I think it's probably facebook.com/ it's probably Bermuda Schwartz.
Okay.
Probably one word.
Right.
Or if not, just search Bermuda Schwartz.
Okay.
And there's a few other Bermuda Schwartzes on there. They will not be confused. Yeah, they won't be confused with me.
Okay. That's weird.
Not trying to be
mean.
Just, I mean, honestly, the Bermuda Schwartz name is not completely unique to me.
You don't have a .com.
I do.
Okay.
But the name was not technically invented by Al. The name appeared first that I know of on the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoon show.
Really?
And there was a Dr. Bermuda Schwartz who invented a silent explosive called a husha-bomb or a husha-boom. No, husha-bomb.
Okay.
And it was a silent bomb. Okay. And Boris and Natasha were trying to get, anyway, so, and his name was Dr. Bermuda Schwartz.
Okay.
So that's the first known use of that.
Okay.
And I don't know that Al necessarily was aware of that, because obviously the Bermuda Shorts thing sort of lends itself to my name.
Right.
But he didn't completely invent that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Al.
You just outed him.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you want to send a shout out to any of your endorsements?
Oh, boy. Well, yeah. I play Ludwig drums, Sabian cymbals, Evans drumheads, Vic Firth sticks, Beto bags for use here in town, Rhythm Tech, Bright Stuff, Rim Riser, Butt Kicker, Sonal pads, and God, I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. There's and these are all, I take endorsements very seriously.
Yeah.
In fact, I wrote a treatise about endorsements back before anybody talked about it about 20 years ago and posted it online. And a number of companies have adopted it as their endorsement policy. So when I say these names, these are the products that I use. I use them because I like them. You know, it's not that anybody's given me a ton of stuff. That doesn't happen that much anymore these days. This is, you know, these are the tools of my trade, and they're important to me. And you know, so when I say Ludwig and Sabian and Bigforth and you know, Evans, these are what give me my sound. These are the things I like to use.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my life.